The Mexican Mafia today is in the position that the Sicilian Mafia would have been in 1920 in New York or 1930 in Chicago. Many people look at them as being thugs, but these thugs are becoming more and more sophisticated, and eventually their sophistication level will reach the point that they'll be the mafia of Los Angeles. Instead of the 5 families, you might have the 5 gangs, controlled each by a charismatic leader of the Mexican Mafia, if we came to that. And the whole idea is that we are going to be proactive, which we always talk about in law enforcement, we sometimes don't do, and stop that from happening before we become, like New York or like Chicago.
Any of you or people that are watching this video have ever heard of Karl von Clausewitz? Probably none of you have even heard who he is. He basically revolutionized modern Western warfare. And what he did was he took a philosophy of war that was taking every aspect of warfare into account, planning for every little bit that would come up, considering how you're going to receive your information, the friction of your troops en route to their enemy, everything that you can come up with. And he put it all into a book, and it's basically a philosophy of warfare. And I've studied this book extensively.
Did you utilize your training from the Marine Corps throughout your gang career?
Yes, I did.
Did you use your military training to teach?
Yes, I did.
Prospective gang members?
I started that when I was just in the regular gang.
So we keep track, okay, when the cops come around, okay, where they go to have their lunch break. Because usually you guys have a certain place where you guys go eat.
You guys watch Cops, the show Cops, and look for weaknesses either in policy, procedure, so that you can break it down and use it to your advantage at a later time when you were in the organization?
I would say, hey, the way he cuffed him up or the way he took him down or whatever, you could have done this, or he could have done that. Right, the way me and him were discussing one time, such as getting rid of dope, what I'm saying, out of a car. You know what I'm saying? You make certain turns so you can throw it a certain way and you'd be out of you guys' view. You know what I mean? Certain things, how you guys would handcuff people, watch how cops come up close on people, how they would approach a car, because a lot of them would just go up there just like nothing. Hey, roll down your window. You know what I'm saying? Not really knowing that, hey, dude may be up to something, he just may put a bullet in them.
If I was on a mission and you caught me on the way to do it, I would definitely be looking to take your life. And it would be a quick thing. And it wouldn't be about the assessments that I would make of you. Either way, they aren't going to impede me from doing what I have to do. They're just going to help me in judging how I'm going to carry it out. Because if I think that I can just really overpower you physically, I might try to do it quietly. But if I think that I would have problems, then I'm just going to shoot you. And that's basically what it means. It doesn't mean it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. It's just how it's going to happen. Personally, my plan had always been really simple. If someone pulled me over during the commission of a crime or after having just committed a crime, I would just wait for him to come to my window, and as soon as he stuck his head in there, I would shoot him. And that's pretty cut and dry. I wouldn't shoot him from a distance. I would not want to get into a shootout with him because I'm scared of guns. I don't like bullets coming at me. If I shoot somebody, I don't want them to be shooting back at me. So I want to basically catch them when they're slipping.
If they're in the process of committing a crime, and they know they're going to get busted, well, most of the time they'll wait because in prison as well as in the streets, patience is a virtue. So what we do, we always look for that weakness that a police officer commits. One thing that we always found out that a lot of police officers like putting their heads down when they like to write, or they like to get too little close, not really pay attention to the individual, because a lot of police officers, they want to exert their authority. They think just because they're in blue or they have a badge, I'm the man here, I'm more superior than you, he ain't gonna do nothing to me. I'm badass. But they fail to realize that a lot of individuals coming out now, well, they're gonna take these opportunities. They catch you looking down while you're writing, you're up too close, whatever, they're gonna take one. They're gonna try to take you, in order to get out of there.
And 9 times out of 10, if there's more than one person in that car going to do a target,
you're washed up.
You better get back up before you even approach that.
I don't know what your first...
Because if I'm with him, I already know what he's going to do. He's got 2 strikes. He ain't going back to prison.
And we ain't leaving our partner
And
behind.
I mean, we take into consideration the fact that when you make initial contact with us, it's going to be a one-on-one situation, and we're going to have the advantage because we know what you're bringing when you're walking up to us. You're bringing your gun, you're bringing your radio. And if you're alone, if you don't have a partner, that's all you're bringing. You have no idea what I have waiting for you in my car, in my waistband. You're basically walking up onto the situation cold. And at that moment in time, I have an advantage over you. This is something that we talked about a lot. And that's where the aggressiveness comes into play. You know, if I take aggressive steps then, when I have the advantage, chances are I'm going to win. If I wait until you have a chance to make your call and backup arrives, I'm going to get caught because there's no way I can deal with the whole police force.
Put it this way, it's either your life or the law enforcement's life. So if he's coming in between your mission or your objective, even if he's just pulling you over and you haven't completed your task yet, you're gonna come back here and you're gonna have reprisals against you. And if you can't clean that up some way, then it's your life in danger. And that's the way people look at it. So of course their objective is gonna be, whether they're pulled over, it's gonna be, you know, if they got a gun, they're gonna use it, you know, because otherwise it's their life that's in danger coming back here without completing their mission.
If he walks up to me and he has an air of confidence, I don't care how he looks, I'm going to deal with him accordingly. I'm going to know that this dude, maybe he's not in the greatest shape, but he's got that air of confidence about him. You know, he's looking at me in my eyes when he's talking to me. He's not, you know, trying to be overly friendly, so I'm going to deal with it. Number 2, I'm going to look at his physical shape, the shape he's in physically. You know, is he dumpy? Does he look soft? Does he look like he stays in shape? Because if he takes care of his body, chances are he takes care of his mind as well. You know, they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And if he's taking care of those things, he's going to be difficult for me to deal with. And then beyond that, I'm just going to have to pick and choose, you know. I'm going to look at possibly the fact of, you know, how old does he look? Does he look like he's been on the force for a long time?
Because all our tactics are built upon your reaction. You know, we do things to provoke a reaction from you guys and study it.
Did you ever practice in the cell if you were handcuffed?
Yes.
Kicking, jumping
Yes.
through the handcuffs?
Yes.
And how often would you practice that kind of stuff?
2 to 3 hours a day.
Coleman, could you demonstrate how you would defeat a handcuffing procedure by a law enforcement official?
Yes. Okay, so if you had your hands up here, right, and you brought one hand down here, and you try to get this one.
Just like that. Before he commits.
Before he commits to grabbing your other hand,
The minute he has this one.
Mm-hmm.
What about balance? I mean, like if they had you spread your legs a little further than what you had there, you're still able to.
Yeah.
You had your hands up there. I brought one, brought her down.
Same thing.
Still
and
balanced.
And if he tries to compensate, like say be kind of standoffish, all I have to do is extend with a fist or a hammer fist.
How about if your hands were behind your back instead of up on your head? You know, spread your legs a little bit further back, and if you put your hands behind your back, you know, like that. What kind of move do you make from there? Just coming up with the left hand.
Mm-hmm. Follow through with it.
Is there any safe way to handcuff standing up other than, you know, not laying somebody on the ground, because you can't lay everybody out all the time?
Well, the fingers in the lock is difficult. Like it's difficult for a person to maneuver, to spin. Okay, but the safest way would be to put him on the ground, put some weight on him so he can't maneuver at all. That just alleviate all of it.
So if you had your fingers in a lock, say like you had them in a lock behind your hand, if you were to grab your fingers and hold your fingers, if it's going to go to cuffing at some point, you got to unlock.
Right, then it's the same opportunity.
But while the fingers are interlocked and he has a good grip on the fingers, is it more difficult to move and try anything that way?
Have him interlock his fingers.
Yeah, okay, do it that way. Grab the fingers there. Put one hand across and hold the fingers down.
Like that.
Yeah, say you just go into search.
That's the best thing you
That's
can
the
do.
best way to do it right there.
Officer puts handcuffs on you. Is that officer safe at that point?
Not all the time, because we train to kick, groin area, legs, learn what angles to kick, because the easiest way to break a joint is to go this way, cross it. So like if I'm cuffed up and let's say the sergeant, I just tell extracting the sergeant right there, I might kick downward in that angle and break his leg. Just like
What could a law enforcement official do to defeat what you would intend to do to him?
I would have him lay down on the ground and cuff him.
If you're doing a felony stop, put the guy on the ground and cuff him up.
Cuff him up.
Is there anything else? I mean,
Have him lay down on the ground, put your knee in his back, so that way he couldn't maneuver out of anything. Have his hands above his head, bring him back, cuff him up like you normally do.
Because it's hard to move when you're just laid out flat.
Especially with the weight of a person on your back.
But don't dig the knee in there.
No.
could you demonstrate what you would do if an officer was to strike you with a baton? If you were in a combative position?
If he was to strike me, he'd come this way.
That's right.
What I would do, I would go in close because the full blunt of the blow, the power is at the end of the extension. So I would block it close, go for leverage, hit it down, spin it down. That.
So those are the kind of things that you're practicing day in and day out in your cell.
Well, other things that we practice is like person stabbing an officer. Okay, like for say you have your vest on, there's soft spots on the vest, so we go for armpits. Here, here, and here. Now the idea is, even if you don't have a vest, sometimes the knife gets stuck or whatever. You got these inmate manufactured weapons. Sometimes they ain't strong or durable as we expect them to be. So what we do is, any knife, go straight in. When you go straight in, pull straight out, go straight in, push them off balance, hit them again, straight out, hitting soft target, like that. So, like that.
In the organization that you come from, the BGF, they are have a reputation for studying anatomy.
Yes.
What areas on the body are you looking to strike if you're going to strike an officer?
Well, you have your bladder, you have your diaphragm, you have your lungs, you have your heart. You have up here some arterial arteries up in here behind your clavicle, and then you have your jugular. Then you have your temples. Then you have the back of it's part of your brain stem in the back of the head. Those would be places I would put a knife.
And those are things that you studied in the cell. You got anatomy books, looked at them, practice on them.
Drew a picture on the wall and practice.
For hours at a time.
Joint force, task force of this county, that county, this city, CDC, FBI, goes out to take these gang members down in these neighborhoods, and when they file their reports, one guy might not black it out, this guy might put this guy puts that guy puts this. So now all these gang members in the shoe have all the identities of your undercover narc cars, detective cars, your beeper numbers, your names, what car you drove at the time of the incident. Because one faction don't know what the other faction is doing when they file their reports. So all that information is passed down to the Board of Prison Terms, and they gotta supply the prisoner with a copy of his violation report from all these agencies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Your badge numbers too are all in there.
Your badge numbers on all our reports. I mean, when you put your badge number on it, that's basically like putting your ID card on it. Because, I mean, we under the premise of something else, we can call the police station and we can decide that we want to file a report against you or a complaint. Mm-hmm. And then once we file this false complaint, we use your badge number, we file the complaint, and from there we can find out what doors we need to open to find out more information about you.
So when you think you got a beat on this guy, he knows you're following him. He knows what you're driving. That's a cop right there. So he's going to take you off on a little trip, you know what I mean? Stop here, stop there, contact this dude. You never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? He might take you down the alley, and when you drive through the alley, there's dudes standing right there with semi-automatic rifles and just blast you. And he just keeps driving. You're going to hit a garage, you're dead.
An officer on the streets could know this individual from being a street gang member and know that, hey, the guy's not really on the ball. He's just a flunky. He's out here slinging crack. He goes to prison, ends up under the umbrage of this organization, comes back out a year and a half later, and now that officer is dealing with somebody completely different. The officer may not know that, but in reality, he is dealing with a completely different person, having been educated by your organization.
Oh yeah, mandatory. Because one thing about our organization, our thing is education. You know what I mean? We're going to educate them. A lot of things, like I said, art of war, art of leadership, concepts, Mexican, Aztec history, business. So they're going out there educated, you know what I'm saying? And they're going out there better trained, more physically fit, and they're going out there with the goal because they want to, exceed where the older homeboys are at. They want to be somebody, you know what I'm saying? They're more disciplined, they're more dedicated, so you're dealing with a whole different person. He's a walking weapon for us, whether it be mentally or physically. We look at gangbangers, like I said before, wandering clouds of shit. They have no self-worth in life. They have no goals in life. You get someone coming out of prison like an NF member, well, I got goals and objectives. You know what I mean? Whether I got to, bootlick the police officer for 5 minutes in order to get away, that's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? If I got to do some physical harm to the police officer in order for me to get away, that's what I'm going to do. But in dealing with somebody coming out of prison, you got to understand that he's calculating everything. You know what I'm saying? He's being observed, he's being patient. What calls for what? You know what I'm saying? He's using his mind more instead of just reacting to a certain situation. Like you got youngsters out there, so it's a totally different situation. You can find yourself dead or hurt or, hey, going home that night.
And a law enforcement official on the street needs to understand many of these guys have been hit with impact rounds 4, 5, 6 times. They've been sprayed with pepper spray. They've walked through CN and CS in order to complete their mission. They're not just going to quit because you're telling them to do so or because you've deployed some munition or tool to get them to stop. Has been patted down probably thousands of times since you've been in custody. How often in all those times has a police officer, correctional officer, really checked in and around your groin to see if you've concealed something?
Shit, I've had him raise it and didn't even notice. It was always something right there.
Like out here on the main line, what some of us would do we tied something on the penis itself. You know what I'm saying? Because
knowing that the cop's not going to touch you.
Yeah, they ain't going to just grab you. So it'd be right there. They would hit the underside of it. Like when they come up, they hit the underside. All right, no problem. But there's a lot of times too, like you guys don't run, you guys just hand up people's cracks. You know what I mean? So there are times that we just chick a piece, meaning that we have the piece just between our butt cheeks and we'll just keep it secured there. Because we're like this, you can secure something, have your legs open and won't fall out. And all you guys are doing is just this. It could just be in between the cheeks or it could be, tied onto the penis.
We don't teach these guys in here to take you for granted as police officers.
No, definitely not.
And your academy shouldn't be teaching them to take us for granted because, like he's saying, these people are coming out here, they're playing for keeps, just like you're playing for keeps so you can go home every night.
If you're not going to follow the rules that are set by the academy and what they teach you in the academy, you could pay for it with your life.